Hi guys, my name is Nosi. I'm Nosi Piwo. I'm a South African and I live and work in England. Today I'm sharing this for anybody who can learn from it and from anybody that can be helped and know something to do and know what to do about the situation. I've been listening to this TB Joshua documentary that's been in social media a lot, and people have different opinions about it, and some people would like to say it's not true, but as a woman and as a person that grew from church and spent all my life in church, I'm not so familiar with the world outside church. I know church more than any other place. As a result, I know what to expect, things that happen in secret in churches and things that do not happen in secret. I was reflecting on this TB Joshua documentary and started to reflect on my life. I was in my late teenage years when I was pregnant. Even though I got pregnant from someone who I said yes. When they said, I love you, then you say yes. In your small mind, you are not applying for sex when you say yes, but you just say responding to love. Again, it was lack of teachings, because you are just told that sex before marriage is sin, and you know that I can say yes to a man, but I'm not agreeing to sex when I say I want to be your girlfriend, because you're trying to find out how do people get married then if you don't say yes when someone say they love you. And remember, the stage of being a teenager is identity versus confusion. So you're trying to get your own identity, but you're confused, which goes back to a teachings like mine, teachings like any other person who can share their stories. We need to share our stories so that the young generation that is technologically advanced than us can listen to these stories and be wiser. So, because I was a born-again Christian or a too much committed Christian child, when that happened, the only thing I had to do was to go and confess it, because I didn't know what to do. And I remember that the first people that I confessed to were mama, who were, it's like a person has been a nurse for a long time. Then I think they were doing community nursing in Makiwane for 1 year. And we used to pray together during lunchtime. And the first people that I spoke to were those mamas. And when I spoke to them, I remember very well that one of them said to me, I'm a very young girl, I'm not even 20 years old. And that mama said, you know what? I was once in a situation similar to yours, but I jumped through the window. I fought. In reality, that was her story, her truth. But my story, my truth, is a little bit different from hers. I didn't have the strength to jump windows. But who knew if there were windows, by the way, where this guy forced himself on me? you know. So after saying all sorts of things that were indirectly in my mind, were saying, this is your fault too, or you contributed to this, it's partly your fault. Do you know, when you have been taken advantage of as a woman, the reason why it hurts the most is when women do not understand. You're like, so and so is a woman, and they are supposed to understand this situation. They are supposed to be on my side because they are women. But men continue ukuxhaphaza ama-women because women are on their side, be it women in churches, be it their wives, the wives of the perpetrators, be it women generally were supposed to support young women, but instead of supporting, they get too judgmental. She didn't only give it to me, and I'm sitting there listening like a sheep that is about to be slaughtered. She didn't only do that. The next thing that she did was to ask me to recite Psalm 51. Go and check Psalm 51 and recite it, and you would see that this person, how can you force me to repent when I'm telling you that this has happened? You're supposed to just hug me, give me love, and say, I'm sorry, child, that you've gone through this. But no, that is what I got, and I was told to recite Psalm 51. And I remember reciting it with tears going down my eyes, reciting Psalm 51. I will never forget that. But another mama, they were mostly same age, doing the same course, and they were friends, and they were these serious Christian mamas. The other one called me maybe 2 days later and acted like a mother. She didn't act like a mother in front of that one who was judgmental, but when she was alone, she called me and she said, my child, I understand you. I was in a similar situation. And this woman, even if she's judgmental, do you know that even today she's still crying for the husband that divorced her? Every night she's crying. I hear you, I understand you. Even though that made me feel better, but I so wish she defended me in front of the woman that judged me, that made me feel like I'm at fault. Whereas I knew that I was not at fault in this situation. Maybe lack of knowledge was the problem. Continuing to life, I decided to go and tell my pastor. He asked me, he listened, then he then asked me to go and test if anything happened to me, if I got pregnant or not, or whatever after this sex. And then I need to inform him. But because there was a lot of things that were happening in my life, I didn't take a trip to go and inform him because he lived quite far away. Instead, I wrote him a letter. With this letter, I gave it to a woman that stayed in Eqoboqobo, where my pastor lived that time. The woman didn't take the letter straight to the pastor, but gave it to a man who was going to church in Eqoboqobo. I don't think that man took the letter. I believe he never took it, but instead he read it. I don't know why. Funny enough, that man is still preaching even today, but he made it a point that he's treating me like his enemy, but people abasazi sonke story. Maybe it is his guilt that is judging him because we don't have a good relationship with him. And I find him always looking for things that can attack me, maybe to feel better of himself. I don't know. All these things, this are clues. We will never know. There's a saying which says, yes, we will be shocked because the people we would be expecting to live with him will be left, and those people we didn't expect to live, they will leave. So, and my pastor did not even tell me that the fact that he didn't receive the letter, he thought that I'm guilty. That was it, my reception in the church. The third one was the mama who was an aunt to my friend in my location. She heard from my friend what happened. She didn't say anything to me, but whenever I passed, she would shout and call my child Mvano. English Mvano means consent. So I gave consent for whatever that happened to me. May God bless her, because her life is, she's not doing well at all in life. Ngoba God, uyabalwela bakhe. From all these experiences, let alone the extended family, people would shout, I'm still a child, for goodness sake, would shout and say, never go to church because you will be pregnant. Really? I'm a child, and these people are old, were born 1963, 1965, but they are busy after a child. You know, I was a child. Your story, this gave me what I can say today. Your story is your own story, your truth, and there's no shame in telling your story, in telling your own truth. Do you know that there are people that we have failed because they have disclosed attempted rape, but we would be afraid that the perpetrators are married to our family members, and we would be fearing family conflict, and we will never follow up on or confront the situation. I'm guilty of that. I've heard stories like that, but instead I would say, go to another counselor. I would refer, because if I say it myself, it would lead to a family conflict. I'm sorry to those people that have done that too and never fought for them. But I gave them the right advice because I was afraid of family conflict, because sometimes people will be raped or will experience attempted rape, but it is women who will stand up and protect their husbands and protect their boyfriends and protect men against the victims, forgetting that the victims are children. I remember when I was young, there's some work that I do privately on gender equity and reconciliation, and there's a question they like to ask which says, when you were a child, was there anybody that touched you inappropriately or made you feel like you were sexually abused, something like that? I stand up when that question is asked, because when I was maybe 6 years old, a man who was sort of a extended family relative again used to touch us inappropriately. And today, now that I'm old and I understand these things, I think it was grooming. That what he was doing was called grooming. He was grooming us because he would touch our womanhood, our private parts, you know, and would measure his penis in our private parts. And because it's always the child who's poor who suffers this, maybe even rich children, but after doing that, you are hungry, he would give you food to silence you to an extent that you would forget what he has done. And sometimes it's the orphan. Once they know that you are vulnerable, you don't have a mother, you don't have a father, they think you must be their victim to offend. So I forgot that this man used to groom us, to touch us inappropriately, because he used to be an extended family member, you know. That is why I just don't have confidence in family, because my extended family, especially on the paternal side, have done so many things to me. Some have said disgusting things. Some have done many things to my mother, but some have done many things to me. Now, I guess I must have forgotten this because I was a child. I was 6 years old. I remembered in my old age what he did, because maybe I pushed it in the unconscious mind because I was a child. But I remembered, and when I remembered, it was the day when my family asked us to visit this man in one of the big cities, so in South Africa. So we visit him. I haven't seen him for a long time, for the longest time. Maybe since I was a child, I haven't seen him. Then I started seeing him. By the time he came and he was appearing, those things he used to do to us reappeared in my mind, and I couldn't breathe. I remember I didn't greet him. I went like this. Went like it. That time I was angry. I wanted to end this nice visiting and confront him. And then after that, when my siblings asked me to get out of the car to his house, I said, no, I'm not getting out. I'll sit in the car. I did not tell my siblings the exact story of what happened. I just said, I just remember that this man, when I was young, he touched me inappropriately. And I've never seen him after that. And even if that's the problem with the perpetrators, with there is a name that I want to think about, or of calling him, with abadlwenguli. He will cry and pretend not to remember and pretend to be a victim. So even if I asked him, he would pretend to be a victim. So I chose to keep quiet. But those things happen. Now, coming to church, I had so many incidences where I almost suffered rape in church. But I think they were stopped by remembering my character. I remember in this church where I went to, so I was asked by the wife of this man to go and take uniform because I was going to start a job in a nursing environment. So she said I must take her uniform. When I went to her house, she told me where the key was. And I thought in her mind, maybe she thought there would be nobody when I go to her house. But when I went to her house, the husband was in the room. When I went to her room to fetch the uniforms, I was shocked to find the husband in bed sleeping. I think the devil told him to come back early to work because he wanted to rape me when I come. Maybe the wife, in her innocent mind, he told her that I would come. So the devil was preaching to him that he must go, but he must attempt to rape me. I remember him telling me to fit the uniform and come and show him. So I would fit the uniform and go and show him, but it was uncomfortable to do this, and he would look. I think he was gathering courage to rape me. Thank God he never really raped me, but just that thing of making me walk in front of him while only two in the house, in his room, go to another room where I think he stopped. Some people would stop because I've got a strong character, so they don't know if I would talk or I wouldn't talk, because I was quite old and I've been through a lot already that time, so I wasn't going to keep quiet if he raped me. And there were other incidences where I'm trying to talk about how we are sometimes silent about these things. There were other incidences where I would go in someone's office, someone who's in power, now as a young professional, and a man would want to forcefully kiss me, a big man, and I would protect myself because he would squeeze you in a corner. Then you will be forced to protect yourself and push him away. You don't say to people, you don't take legal action because you're like, he didn't do anything, I stopped him. But deep down, you know that what he did is wrong, it's sexual harassment because you are a young woman. He doesn't have the right of squeezing you into a corner and attempt to kiss you. That has happened for me. Sometimes it would be a magistrate office when I was a younger social worker. Sometimes it would be a man in power in the social work profession. But at the same time, you have to keep quiet, because if you open a case against him, you might lose your job. You take his emsebenzini, but you would be like, as long as he didn't do it, and keep quiet. So this shame and silence, I think it's what is killing people. It's what is killing young children. Those girls who say TB Joshua has raped them, I believe them. And it is their truth, it is their story. When you know nothing about a situation, don't you dare say it has never happened. Because when it is your child, you know exactly that it has happened. But as long as the person is not your child, you think maybe they are lying when they tell their story. Maybe they are... In the first place, a woman doesn't lie about rape. A child doesn't lie about child sexual abuse unless a child has been coached. Because these days, people, when they have their own agenda, they would coach them. But that is why professionals are involved when that happens, to question the children. Then at least you pick it up when a child has been coached, and you differentiate the truth from the lies. I'm just thinking of that today, and to anybody who has been raped or faced attempted rape, please talk about it. Do not feel ashamed. There's no shame in telling your story. I know that people will blackmail you in emotional and say it's a family matter. Family matter, my foot. They would say it's a church matter. Sukupa mabibi. Church matter, my left foot. Stand up, tell your truth. Stand up, talk about it. Stand up, expose the devil. He will deny it, he will cry. The other ones are sick enough to kill themselves once their death comes out, because they are the predators. May God bless you. I thought, let me just share that with you. Please take care. Love you all. Bye.